We back. 30 days of feeling day 22. It's only a few more videos left in the series. Had a really amazing session with a client yesterday where we were talking about just being really mindful and really conscious of not playing the character, just wearing the costume when it comes to taking on identity for long periods of time. And I think that this is a really cool thing to feel into today, and I'll explain more in depth, but I notice a lot of people, and especially a lot of my clients, struggle with a lot of the common masculine archetypal energies. For example, like, always wanting to be the hero, always wanting to be the leader, um, feeling obligated to be those things. And we'll just take the hero, for example. Because I am someone that knows that I want to help and can help, I feel obligated to help at every situation that I can, and I end up building a life where people count on me to a point where I can easily overextend myself, right? And so the feeling is, how do we separate the costume from the character, right? For me, I see all these different costumes that I wear in my little every day when I wake up, or moment to moment, I should say. I have like the competitor, the athlete, the guy who's like trying to play sports and video games, and I'm like playing and thinking strategically and moving in that direction. I got normal Graham, which is just naked Graham, which I say is right now. I have like, Coach Graham, who is there specifically to hold space in a very specific context, to help people become more conscious of themselves and thus free themselves from their own shackles of mental entanglement or emotional stifledness, emotional clogging. I have the brother costume. I have son costume. I have all these different costumes in this closet of Graham. And what I've practiced the last 10 years is not playing the character, just wearing the costume and being comfortable changing the costume frequently, like as often as I need to. Need to being the word that's linked to, what is encouraging my freedom and my authenticity. That's the costume that I should be wearing right now, that I want to be wearing. Not wearing one because I feel obligated to continue to play this character, because this character gives me the payoff of feeling recognized or feeling appreciated or feeling insert. So that's what I'm going to feel into today. I just think it's really important. I think that a lot of people struggle with the inability to take off the costume and the losing of themselves in the character, which then can become their identity. And when you think about it, actors wear their characters for the duration of the movie, and then they let the character go. And some people don't do that, and it can have really challenge. It's interesting even for actors. Look at someone like Heath Ledger. Became the Joker, could not separate from the Joker, ended up moving in a direction mentally that was just unstable. It's really interesting. I'm sure there's a lot more to it, don't get me wrong, but that's just something that came to my mind. Anyway, how do I feel about being the costume versus staying the character? I feel like I think that when I was younger, how do I feel about this? Yeah, I think that's how I feel. I feel like this is an insanely important topic, because I feel like, specifically when I'm talking to men, but there's also, of course, everyone deals with this. So let's back this about you. I think I feel that when it comes to shifting an identity for a prolonged period of time and the inability to shed the identity has a lot more to do with a person's secret payoff to staying in the energy of the character than it does the freedom associated with the costumes. I feel like for me, as I look through the course of my life and I view the different characters that I was playing, and we'll go back to, Graham the businessman, Graham the entrepreneur, Graham the bodybuilder, Graham the fitness model, Graham the marketer, Graham the insert. During the time period, during that period of my life, I found it very challenging to put those to let go of the costumes. I was starting to get momentum in my life for the first time, building confidence in my life for the first time. So it was very easy for me to want to keep the costumes on all the time, and even better, stack the costumes on all these things simultaneously at all times. And that's why I'm so, insert what I am, which I thought was confident. That's why I'm so successful. That's why I'm building this thing that's going to change the world. That's why I'm, doing these things. And the more grandiose that my vision became, the harder it was to let go of the costumes. And I feel that all of the culmination of the lesson for me came as I realized that this is beautiful. As I realized that the cost of playing the character for a prolonged period of time, more than the character was needed, was an unhealthy, adverse side effect mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. The first one was mentally, the amount of energy it requires to sustain the different characters simultaneously at all times is excruciating. It's so hard to always be turned on and focused and zoomed in and wired in and playing the character of the business person that's got to be successful, got to go fast, we got to make it happen. There's everyone out there doing this, the marketer that's on the front lines is doing this, the bodybuilder that has to keep up with it, right? So mentally, it's just so taxing. Physically, to keep up with the physical fitness regime required to have a successful bodybuilding career, fitness modeling career, so many of the people are on steroids first and foremost. And I dabbled with that for a period of time and realized very quickly that this just wasn't sustainable for me. And I wasn't willing to sacrifice my body and my health to achieve something so arbitrary and hollow. But it was so hard during that process to say no, because the feeling of physical aesthetic was so addicting. The vanity was so addicting. It felt so good. I felt so good about myself for the way I looked. It just fed the monster, fed the beast. Fed the insecurity of not being, right? The opposite of the other hand of perfection is insecurity. And so the lack of perfection would just send the insecurity spiraling upwards. So physically challenging, spiritually, there's so little freedom of expression when I'm forcing myself to play these characters. It was so challenging to shift. I can't be this because I'm that. I'm a bodybuilder for these many years, and then after that, I'll do this. Right? There wasn't any crossover because I was so insecure of no longer fully being the things that I had convinced myself that I was. And this is where the identity shifts are very challenging. And this is where people take psychedelics for the first time, or they have a really deep breathwork session, or we do a coaching session. They can have major ego deaths and have major psychological structures that have been holding up and propping up their ego for their whole life starting to be peeled back. There's a major shift associated with that, which I think is why it's so hard to start to understand that these aren't characters, these are costumes. And I think the more that we can become conscious of that, the more that I become conscious of that, the more freedom that I felt, the more peace that I've had. And I was on my walk this morning and I was just thinking to myself, I was like, peace is so interesting. Peace is the only thing that I can actually give myself, and no one else can give it to me. No one else can give me peace. For example, I was thinking about, actually, this is a funny thought. I was thinking about how someone told me the other day the new Apple AirPods are going to have instant translation between languages, which I thought was my initial reaction was man, it's sad. We're not going to have a need to learn new languages. And one of the things I find so fun about traveling is I don't know what people are saying. It's so cool to just have no idea and be totally clueless and have to learn and put things together. And my first thought was man, we're becoming such a globalized people. We all are learning to communicate to one place, one source, which is beautiful. But then it made me think back to a time where I was so obsessed with, okay, how can I get everyone and everything to be on the same level playing field. And when I see that, and I see that one language, that one communication, that one global voice it also brings a lot of like sadness for like that's it's a shame that our culture is shifting so much, and we're becoming so centralized that, you know, I guess I wasn't conscious of the adverse side effect of that, which is like we're going to lose a lot of really cool uniqueness about us, which is kind of a side tangent to the larger point, which my brain is just not there right now. It's just so interesting. So rarely does this happen. But I woke up this morning and my brain just didn't feel as like interconnected as it normally does. And I always feel so articulate. So right now I'm like, there's this thing I wanted to say, this point I wanted to make, and I want to bring it full circle. So I'm going to have to continue on. In the meantime, it'll come back to me. And that's how I handle me losing my train of thought, which happens sometimes. So anyway, I also feel like just in general, the characters, the costumes, it's also just a massive burden. Oh, I think I was talking spiritually, freedom. Okay, yeah. I learned that over the course of my life, and the last 10 years specifically, and wearing those different costumes and characters, I noticed that spiritually there was a lot less freedom associated with pretending to be these characters for prolonged periods of time. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people struggle with. And I feel like that's something that we can all learn from and grow through to become, in my opinion, just a lot more connected to ourselves, which I feel like is, that's what I was saying. Only the peace is the only thing I can give myself. Okay. Yeah. As we go back to the communication about the Apple AirPods and whatnot, I don't know where that took me afterwards, but I realized, like, if I wanted to unify the world, even, okay, that's where I was going with this. The Apple AirPods took me to everything's becoming, one communication, one world. Even if I like look back at all the different people who have tried to, like, and you look at movies, you can look at all the time, there's always a villain or a hero trying to like get the world to have this like reign of peace because there's always so much conflict. Like, even with all of that, it still doesn't make it any easier to feel peace. Like, other people can't make me feel peaceful. I have to give myself permission to be peaceful and content with the things that are. And if the things that are right now are that the world's becoming a more centralized, globalized place, then I can give myself peace, but no one else can. I can't, just because I unify the world, even right back to that like earlier vision. Oh, I always had this thing when I was younger. I thought the world would be interconnected and I'd have a part to play in it, which I think I do, but it's not the way I thought it was. Like, I can't, just because I've united the world doesn't mean that I feel peace. And I think that's super fucking interesting. It's like, I truly am the only one that can give myself peace of mind. And I feel like that is a major theme when it comes to costumes versus characters. I feel so much more peace when I know these are just costumes and I can just hang them up. Because when I get back to baseline Graham, I just always find this very relaxed, calm, chill, excited, don't get me wrong, I'm hype at times for sure, but very free-flowing person. And I think spiritually, the costumes make a lot more sense than the characters. And I say characters because they're like locked in, with the costumes, I feel like I can just take them off. And I just feel like that's super interesting. And so yeah, from mental, physical, spiritual, and even an emotional perspective, emotionally, playing characters all the time, it takes a massive emotional toll. I see a lot of my clients really struggle with, like, I'm always the leader, I'm always the one people go to, I'm always the one looking out for people, I'm always the one making sure they're okay. I don't have anyone checking in on me. People think I'm always all right. I'm struggling. I don't know who I am. I don't know where I am. I don't want to play this character anymore. I don't know how to get away from playing this character anymore. Where do I go? What do I do? There's so many layers to it. And so I just want to continue to reiterate this as, like, I look at myself, I feel like the most practical thing I can do is become conscious that I have so many different hats that I wear for different experiences or circumstances in my life, and I can remove those at will without changing who I am. It doesn't change who I am. It's just how I am and how I share myself in that moment. But it all emanates from the same place: presence, peace, power, Graham's, code of awareness and who he is, which is always evolving, of course. But operating from that place, I always feel a lot more freedom and authenticity, which leads me to a lot more physical calmness, which leads me to a lot more mental calmness. Where there's presence, there's peace. Where there's peace, there's power. And that makes me feel really strong. So I feel really strong in the costumes. I feel really weak in the characters. I feel strong in the costumes because I know that at any moment I can just shift and take them off. And I'm not locked in. And there's no long-term commitment. While for the characters, I feel like if I play those roles, I'm committed to those roles. And those can be really challenging, especially when we aren't conscious of them. And that's the problem with most people, is they're just not conscious of the roles they're playing and why they're playing them. And a lot of the work that I do with my clients is diving into what roles are you playing and why are you playing them? When did you start playing them? And what ones do you actually want to play? I think if we can get clarity on what roles you actually want to play, what costumes you actually want to wear, very quickly you can start to find that inner peace for yourself. And again, I just find it so funny that peace, again, is one of the things that I'm the only one that can give myself permission to be at peace. I am the only one that can give myself permission to be at rest. I am the only one that can give myself permission to feel and think, Graham, you've done enough today. Be at peace. Graham, your life is smooth. Be at peace. Graham, everything is happening for you, brother. Be at peace. Graham, I am the only one that can remind you that you are at peace. I just find that to be super fascinating. So when we're talking about costumes and characters, I feel really connected to the costumes, and I feel really, I feel connected to the characters as well because I used to play them. And I look back again, like I said earlier, and I just see these different versions of myself that were like trying to stay locked in. And every time I did that, that ended up being a season of my life that was challenging in a lot of ways. And eventually I had to break the character in order to evolve into what I already was, which is, more shapeless than like solid form. Again, just the rotation of the costumes versus the I am this specific character forever. I am leader, and that's it. And I'm a leader. I'm a follower. I'm a fucking goofball. I'm not paying attention. Like I'm all the things, and I think that gives me a lot more space, a lot more freedom. Most importantly, a lot more peace. Brings me peace. So that's how I feel about the costumes I wear versus the characters I play, and I feel like the faster that you can become conscious of the characters you're playing that you don't want to play and become more conscious of the costumes you want to wear that you currently aren't wearing because you feel like the characters give you power and the costumes aren't safe enough. I think somewhere in all that I just said can be a lot of liberation for you. And I'm all about liberation. I'm all about you feeling a lot better about yourself and your life. And honestly, I think feeling better just means, it just starts with feeling more calm. A balanced place is the space from which you can then feel any number of other things. And I'm very interested in feeling whatever is present with me, but I can only feel what's present with me when I have a blank slate of emotional clarity. And most of us don't have emotional clarity. We have emotional confusion, emotional congestion, emotional blockage. And because of that, it's like taking light in while wearing sunglasses. Like we're getting the amber always. You have to take all the emotional sunglasses off to get to a place where you're really seeing colors as they are. And from that place, there's this major connection to, okay, like I'm seeing things clearly now, truly clearly for the first time in my life. I'm feeling feelings clearly now that I've never felt before. And I'm experiencing things now that I've always wanted to experience or haven't experienced like this in a very long time. I think that's the perk of trading the characters for the costumes. Is just a more mental, physical, spiritual, emotional clarity, a clean slate, a clean palette, and an open expressive interpretation of everything. And that to me is about as close to the sauce as you can possibly be. Because from that point, I think you're in a really beautiful creative state. And from there, you can build things and create things and add things and play with things. And, there's other levels to it, of course, but yeah. So trade the characters. If you're hearing this and you find yourself locked into a character, you're just like, I'm just the dad, or I'm just the insert. I'm just the business guy. I'm just the career guy. I'm just the mom. I'm just the sister. I'm just a student. you're limiting yourself with all these labels, with all these characters. You need to take that off. You can be the student for the next hour, study, take it off. Now be the gym gal. Okay, great, take it off. Now be the friend. Okay, cool, take it off. Now be the inventor. Cool, put it on. Now be the fun person. Okay, do that. Now be the reader. Now be the writer. Now be the singer. Now be the insert. You can keep changing. I think that's how the term Renaissance man came about. It's someone who is, incredibly gifted in various disciplines of life, and I think that comes from someone understanding costumes. Like I am the place from which the magnificence and accomplishments of my life are coming from are from me, and the vehicles are the costumes. And when you understand the vehicles or the costumes or the cars, right? We can change it like the make and model. I think you can start to understand that you can really get to the finish line, or you could win the race with any car you got. You could do it with any costume that you have. It doesn't matter. You can still get into the sauce and build something amazing and impact somebody and live in peace and presence and power. Insert. So yeah, really, really important video. Good topic. It's interesting. Like I said, just observing my brain today. I haven't had a day where it feels like where the words don't come to me so clearly in a very long time. So it's so interesting to observe. And it brings me back to days where my brain was like oftentimes not, it didn't feel like I was fully there. But I'm as I let go of it, it comes, which is great. So anyway, that's my little video on costumes versus characters. I'm really excited to go deeper into this topic, and I might make like another video like just more about it in general, make a podcast or something. But I think this is a good like reflective video for me just to sit with and how I've done it before in my life. And yeah, as always, I recommend journaling about it a little bit. What characters are you playing that you no longer want to play? What costumes, or how long have you been playing these characters for? How have these characters affected you and impacted you? What costumes do you want to wear and why? And moving in that direction to create a more present, peaceful, powerful life, and also feeling that freedom of expression that we've been talking about. I think that's the goal. So anyway, wishing all of you an incredible day. Appreciate you riding with me. 30 Days of Feeling, day 22. Good day. I need a haircut. I need to go get a shower. Oof. Shave. Relax. We're doing that. I'm gonna do more of it. Make some burgers for lunch. Build some Legos. That's good. Make a video. Be good, be safe. Peace.